It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of
artifact size
is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
What's going on, guys? LoganJYA here, and we got the brand new episode of Making This Deck Great Again. That's right, we've got our new take on hand artifact Traptrix from back in 2014. This time it's H.A.T. Enforcer artifact Traptrix, and we made this deck as great as possible. So be sure to leave a like, comment down below what you think and what you change, and be sure to subscribe. We got some replays, and we got the deck profile at the end of the video. So without further ado, I don't want to preface this too much. Let's get into it.
I have a couple of interesting, we have a few clips that we're just going to put up. We could turn the lights a little bit lower. I think you'll find them interesting.
What's going on, guys? LoganJYA here for the second ever episode of Make That Deck Great Again, and we have got H.A.T. This is Enforcer artifact Traptrix, a new take on hand artifact Traptrix from back in 2014. We made it great again, brought it into 2021, and we're going to show you some replays before we get into the deck profile. So without further ado, let's get into it. The two plays that I've picked are actually what I figured to be the most entertaining and that have the most unique interactions, but we did beat Sword Soul, Tri-Brigade, and Drytron with this deck all live on stream. So be sure to check out our Twitch stream if you really want to see us pilot this deck against some of the most unique meta decks. But I picked the ones that I thought were the most fun and the most technical. So let's get into it. Starting things off, our first match is going to be against the Prank Kids. That's right, the Pranksters are going to be starting things off. And they win the die roll, so they're going off doing their thing. Lampsies, Link 1, Dropsies, Cockadoodle-Doo, search off the spell, and it looks like he's playing a DPE package. Look at that, there's a dasher in there. Pretty crazy to see. So he's going to combo off here. There's not much we can do. Just going to watch and learn. Goes for the Bow Wow, gets himself the Fansies, recycle in the end phase, and sets himself up with a ritual play, a fusion play. So in that situation, we set 3 pass and call it a day. Sometimes it makes more sense to think smarter, not harder, not to play into it. So we have to strike the Rip Roaring, which gives him an add back. Who even cares? Goes for the second place, searches off the Lampsies. He's going to continue to extend here, right? Goes for the Cockadoodle-Doo, triggers X-Seed. Now watch this. X-Seed effect, summon, boom, goes up into Unicorn. And we're going to have to strike that because we're holding that Torrential as long as possible. Hit him on the Verte. He gets to recycle in the end phase. Shuffle everything back, but this is a pretty good situation for us. We can start playing. We summon the Mantis, go for the Dionea, go for the Sarah, and activate the Fusion Destiny. We get Ashed. It's unfortunate, so we're literally going 800 poke. I know I'm not getting this one, so we call it game 1. He's got too much gas. Next game, we start things off with the Myrmelio, grab the Floodgate Trap Hole, go for Sarah, set the trap, go for Vesquilo, trigger the Sarah, get another trap, turn these two into Verte, get ourselves a DPE on lock, so we have the Scythe play locked and loaded, set 3 pass. We have a Moraltalk and a Scythe play locked and loaded. He goes for the Fusion Destiny from the start. We're not going to deal with that. We just go for the Judgment. It's a safe play here. Normal summon Dropsies, we DPE that, we bring back Scythe, and that's all she wrote. He can't play through it. So game 3, look at this opening hand here. This is why we side deck the D-Shifter. He normal summons, we Shifter. He even has the tactics. He's going to draw 2, but it doesn't save him. He's got the Tikaboo, but that's not that great against this deck, and you're going to see why. So he reveals the Lord of Heavenly Prisons, an interesting tech in this particular deck. I understand why, because the deck really does struggle against the Twin Twisters. So we grab ourselves a Sanctum, we go for the Dionea, swing over the Dropsies. That's just chilling there. Everything does get banished, by the way. Go for the Sarah, set 2 pass. He's going to reveal that Heavenly Prisons again. And that's it. He's bricking. So we go in for the 800. That Shifter really did a number on him. So he's ending up setting the Dropsies here. I don't know why he chose not to play. I think it's because he was fearing the back row and he knows that we have the trap cards that we do. So he's choosing to play cautiously. He goes for the Tikaboo. But look at this, guys. We have got a plant and an insect, and that's the archetype. It's made up of 2 different cards. I go for a bit of a misplay here. Go for the Gravediggers on the Heavenly Prison effect to reveal. Should have held it for the effect if it came up later. Anyway, Sarah triggers after we Torrential. We get the Myrmelio. We get to pop the Tikaboo. And that's all she wrote. We literally controlled the game by not letting him get into his Prank Kids plays, and that was enough. Let's move on to the next one.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. It's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
Alright guys, the next replay I have for you is a real fun one. We actually ran into a Necrogoon player on DB, a real fan of the strategy, which really makes me happy to see someone else piloting the deck. We're starting things off with the Pot of Prosperity, going for 3, grabbing the Sanctum. This is not the greatest start, but it's pretty good. We got Sarah, we got Trap cards, we got Fusion Destiny. Really can't complain. Set 3 pass, and he goes for the Pot of Prosperity from the start. This is when we learn that he's playing the strategy. Mills 6, grabs a Terraforming. It's understandable, because wait till you see what he goes for. Puts all that back. Goes for the Terraforming. Look at that. It's the Mystic Mine. This is going to force out the DP automatically. He knows that. DP is going to trigger to come back, but he knows Necro Valley not going to let you have to worry about that. However, when he enters battle phase, we get to Sanctum. Morale Tack is going to be popping the Wyvern, and then Mermelia is going to come out off the Sarah that was triggered to pop the Necro Valley. Now, here's the problem. He's got the second Necro Valley to deal with the DPE from coming back, but we are controlling the board. We don't need to commit anymore. I know what deck he's playing. It's very similar to one that I've employed. So we know everything. We know every possibility he has. He draws a dead Red Eyes Insight, and that's all she wrote for game 1. Let's go into game 2. Let's take a look at how this goes. So opening hand is not as nice, and he opened up pretty darn good. I mean, he's got the combo, right? He's got Necro Valley, he's got Red Eyes Fusion, and a Solemn Strike to back it up. It's going to deal with the Sarah. So here we go. Commands an effect to grab himself that Necro Valley. He's got the Strike set. It's a good setup. We start off with the pot. So let's see if we can out that Dragoon here with those Kaijus we were talking about. Oh, yes, sir. We reveal it off the top. He gets punished for not negating the Pot of Prosperity. He might have wanted to see what we were going to reveal, knew we were playing a trap deck. I don't know. He was a little concerned. We normal summon the Mantis. He ends up striking this, which is fair. You could have striked that or the summon a Sarah. He stops us from getting us a card this way. He goes in for the 2700. Our turn rolls back around. Normal summon Mermelia, get the search for Gravediggers. Go for Sarah again and pass. Unfortunately, the Sarah's just going to die here because we have no way of backing it up. But then, we got the Shade Brigandine. We have no trap cards on our graveyard currently. That's going to trigger our Sarah. Mermelia effect's going to pop that Necro Valley. But then here comes the Metaverse. Oh my goodness. It's going to set up the Mystic Mine just like that. We get the Gravediggers Trap Hole locked and loaded. We go into link up for the Karula. We get to pop the Mystic Mine in end phase because there's 2 of the same amount of monsters, and then we get to summon back from the graveyard for the Mermelia to pop a back row because it works out pretty good. We go for the DPE, summon, pop, pop, battle phase swing. He's drawn dead, doesn't even matter. Go in for another swing. Boom. We've taken full control of this match. We're just going to keep breaking off that back row, bringing him back, breaking off the back row, bringing him back. And this is why DPE is so strong in a control tempo deck like this. So we're playing against one of our own control decks, and we absolutely kick butt here. So he goes for the Prosperity. He adds a Super Poly, but since we don't have to commit any more to the board, we just pop that Super Poly, and that's all she wrote. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you do it.
Look at those hands.
Alright guys, for our final replay, I've got my boy TK. You know him from the stream, you know him from the Discord, and he is the one who not only helped me build this deck, but also continues to play it with me on the DB Rated. So my guy, how's it going? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, bro.
So before we get into this, this replay in particular is quite funny. What was going, and they'll see why when we watch it, but what was going through your head when you were experiencing this?
Wow, this is hilarious.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. All right, so TK loses the die roll. He's going to be going second. Let's see what he can do with this opening hand, all right? Looking pretty good. Now, mind you, we were testing out Bottomless in this particular build. Ended up cutting it at the end of the day, but, you know, we got to try everything to make this deck great again. So he goes for the Gazelle. He's pitching. He's sending. Going for the Balinks. That's right. We're playing against Salamangreat, a deck that TK is very familiar with. He normal summons the Ash Blossom, brings out the Sea Archiver, goes for the Mirage Stalio. Interesting strategy, but it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. And it is going to pay off for him because he's going to get the Roar locked and loaded. He's going to get the Jaguar to return and then add back the Ash off of the Sunlight Wolf. Overlay for Baguska Pass, and if anybody saw Triff on the LCS, we know how strong Baguska can be. He summons the Sarah, sets 4 pass turn. That's all we got to do here. Watch this, watch this. So he's going to go, he's going to bounce back, he's going to add back that Gazelle, he's going to go in battle, and then we break out the Sanctum. Gets negated with the Ash, but Sarah does still trigger. He goes for the Roar, and it's unaffected, baby! And he's getting salty about it. So we got the Merm coming out, and then the Sarah does die, but hey, man, it's all good. We strike the Summon of Helio. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Moving on, he's revealing these cards for whatever reason. Prosperity's resolved, and we're going for 6 here. Ballsy 6, but it's worth it because we grabbed the Fusion Destiny here, looking pretty good. We're going to get back into the driver's seat of this game. So return the cards, of course, as you already know, And there we go. All go into the bottom of the deck. Normal summon Dianea, link 2 for Dagda, and go for the Destiny play. Now, our Dagda is getting Veilered, but do we even care? Baguska detaches, it's now irrelevant. Go for the Floodgate Trap Hole to flip face down. Dagda effect triggers to summon the Scythe, and then boom, he scoops it up. Doesn't stand a chance. Our salty fellow is not in the best of moods here. We're moving on to the next game, and it looks like Salad's off to the races with a Silent Mining pitch the Spinny. That's a pretty good start. Foolish Barrel is the Rage this time, which is objectively the correct play. Mirage Stallion summon out the Jaguar, going into the Bailing, searching the Sanctuary, and this is setting up standard plays right now. Also got the pot for extra advantage here. And we look at his hand, he's hiding on a Phantasme, which isn't too bad in this particular matchup. Gives you the draw 2, put back 1 on the Sarah summon. So anyway, he's going to start recycling, using the Sunlight Wolf to grab the Rage, and gets the add back on the Gazelle from the Wolf, sets 3, passes turn, and TK is going to start off with that Pot of Prosperity. Let's see what we reveal. Okay, looking not too bad. We're going to grab the Myrmelio in this particular situation. It makes sense. Everything else goes back to the bottom, as you guys know. Prosperity is such an essential consistency card in this particular strategy. Normal summon the Myrmelio, lets this go through. We grab that Gravediggers, and then enter battle. TK swings over the Jaguar and goes for the Sarah. Now, here comes that Phantasma we were talking about earlier, which is also going to trigger the Sunlight Wolf to add back. So he puts back his Mirage Stallion. Makes sense. But TK is talented. He has the Shade Brigadier, but he goes for the Rage, and Sarah's unaffected, and Sarah triggers. Look at this. This chump just Rage quits. And let's look in this text box real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. Unaffected. You should. What? What?
You what?
All right. So, Tom, what's going through your head when this man decided to absolutely lose his mind?
I was just laughing, bro. I could not stop laughing for a while, bro. I called Logan, and I was like, bro, you gotta check out this shit. This is just too funny.
And this replay was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. Now, a bit more about the matchup. We know that you're very familiar with the Salad strategy, and in Game 1, you really took control of the game and took advantage of his lack of knowledge of what Sarah actually does and reads. You know, you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, a lot of people just don't read Traptrix cards, because, like, it's kind of been, like, out of the meta for a while. So a lot of people just don't know that Sarah's unaffected by trap cards. I've had cases where people have impermed Sarah, and I go, cool, Sarah. Like, it's just too comedic. The Salad matchup is very much in favor of you. I mean, you got the artifact package, Gravediggers hits the deck, Strike's really strong, Myrmelio popping back row is really good. Like, Sarah being immune to Roar and Rage is really nice. Like, Rage on your back row is the only thing that really hurts you. But seeing the Shade kind of just allowed me to push through it.
Nice. Absolutely. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this deck profile, and we can make this deck great again. Let's go. Alright, guys, let's get into the deck profile. We have got the E.A.T. EAT. Enforcer, Artifact, Traptrix, the new take on H.A.T in 2021. We made the deck great again. We changed it up a little bit, but we made Traptrix plus Artifacts work like a dream. And I'm going to show you what this deck looks like right now. I've got TK with me to go through this list since he played such a big role in actually putting it together. So we're going to talk to him as we go through the profile. But without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start things off. We've obviously got the triple copies of the Traptrix Myrmelio. This is a carryover from back in 2014. It's your normal summon, you search a trap hole card. Back then you were searching bottomless. Nowadays you're searching things like your Floodgate and your Gravediggers. We'll get into that in a minute. Move on, we get the triple copies of Traptrix Mantis, which either searches your Dianea for follow-up or your Myrmelio for the trap card search. And of course all these make Sarah easily. The Dianea is really good because it brings back one from Grave, which can trigger their effects, or it can give you an additional body, whether it be to make the Verte, the Dagda, whatever you need to make, you can make it with the Dianea. And then we play the one-of copy of Vesculo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not, but this card's really good too. It's an extender. I've thought about playing more than this, but I can't rationalize it. Tom can't rationalize it. I think we're at a very strong number here of Traptrix monsters where we're not really bricking. Tom, what do you think of the Traptrix ratio that we have going on here right now?
I think it's pretty solid. Like, Vesiculo, like, obviously people are going to look at that and say, oh, you can play more than one, but it's just, it's honestly not that great, like, considering the fact that Exceed is a strictly better card.
Oh, yeah.
And Mantis can search it, so, like, if we ever did need it, Mantis could search it as our, like, extender to make H.A.T or something. So
exactly. So moving on from there, we've obviously got the copies of Parallel We're playing 3 of the main. You theoretically, if you wanted to, you could cut this down to 2 and have a 40-card deck, But, you know, it's good to have it 3, and it also, the third copy can be a side-out slot, and it's just a phenomenal card in general. You really want to see it. It only sucks when you see it in multiples. Moving on from there, we got the cards for our Phoenix Enforcer package, a part of the name right there. You gotta have it. I think the hands might have been a little bit of power crept. You know, it's been 7 years now, and we haven't really been seeing them see play, so I think it makes sense we cut them for something that's a bit more meta-relevant. So we've got the Celestial, we've got the Dasher, and then we're moving into our Artifact package. In the main deck, we're still maining the one Moraltok. Again, a carryover from 2014, and in the replays you saw, this card came up, and it continues to come up. It's really good. You want to have more than just one target, because we're main decking the Triple Sanctum, and we're also doing plays with Dagda, so we want to be ready to rock and roll. And of course, we're playing the WinCon Scythe. Everybody knows this is probably one of the most impactful cards of the meta right now. If you're not playing a deck that's playing Scythe, are you really playing a deck at all? I'm just kidding. There's a lot of decks that are still relevant that aren't playing Scythe. But at the same time, we cannot ignore its meta impact. Moving on, let's go into the spell cards. We've got triple copies of Fusion Destiny and triple copies of Pot of Prosperity. One of them is for your main plays, and the other is consistency to grab you into your other plays. Tom, is there any other spell cards you could see us playing in the future, or are we pretty happy with what we got here, right?
I'm pretty happy. I can't really think of anything else. There's no Planner Insect Searcher, I'm pretty sure, so...
Yeah, exactly. I think we're pretty happy here. Now, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes right here, and that's our trap lineup. So, we're playing 4 Trap Hole Searchers right now. You might have saw in the replays, we were playing Traptrix, Trap Hole Nightmare, and Bottomless. We're testing a whole bunch of different things. But those 2 cards I just mentioned, very low impact comparatively. I think just the 4 should be sufficient. We are playing a few engines in this deck. I think we can get away with the 4. But if you were to play a 5th copy, you could either do Traptrix, Trap Hole Nightmare, or Bottomless Trap Hole. Those are pretty safe picks. But anyway, 2 Floodgates, which flip things face down, and 2 Gravediggers. This is awesome. If you can make a Serra play on your first turn, backed up with an Artifact Sanctum, you set up the Gravedigger's Trap Hole. That means your Sanctum cannot be Ash Blossomed. You can negate the Ash, and then you can summon out the Scythe and Scythe your opponent super duper easy. So it's really, really legit. And, of course, speak of the devil, he shall appear. We got triple copies of Artifact Sanctum. We're actually playing 5 copies, technically, with the copies of Traptrix we run in here, too. We want to see this card because, of course, Scythe can just be an FTK, and access to Moraltok is also phenomenal. There will be times where you set up the Dag to play, as well as having a set Sanctum, so you can go through both Artifact cards on your opponent's turn if need be. We play triple copies of the Shade Brigadine because it triggers Serra. It gets your engine going. You can end on Verte. You can end on Redoer. You've got a whole bunch of option here, my guys. It's actually really easy. If you don't mind sacking off your Serra, if you open up with a Traptrix name plus Shade Brigadine, that gives you Scythe DPE play plus a trap card. It's really, really good. So you generate a lot of advantage with this card. Then we play the FTK in the form of triple Solemn Strike and triple Torrential. You guys heard me talk about this in the Necrogoon deck profile. If you haven't seen that one, go check it out. But this combo, these 2 cards together, really can just mean game for a lot of different matchups. So we play the best trap cards. That's why we're maining triple Torrential, triple Strike. If you didn't know, Serra's unaffected by Torrential, so you can flip it up after your opponent's committed to the board, and it lives and it triggers. It's really, really strong. We got the double copies of Traptrix, which more oftentimes than not, you're going into your Sanctum or your Torrential. Those are the ones that make the most sense to go into them, all right? And then we play the 1 Sacky one of Imperial Order. Tom, while we bring the main deck to a close, are there any other trap cards you could see us playing in the future? Any options that we've considered? Things of that nature that you want to touch on?
In terms of trap holes, if you don't want to play Bottomless or the Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare, you can also just play a 3rd Diggers. So the card is very strong. But I feel like you're just getting to the cards anyway. Why would you play more cards that you can just sort of set free? Like, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe you could argue Judgments in the main, but then you're clogging, and it's a lot of life points.
Yeah. And we aren't killing very fast with this deck. You gotta think about it. We are playing... This is a control tempo deck. Like, I would argue it's more so a control deck. Although it can apply pressure, it can't apply enough pressure to kill fast. So that's why we're trying to really rationalize it. We got to take control of the game. We really do. Now let's move into the side deck here. The side deck is honestly flawless. I love this thing. We workshopped it. We went back and forth on it. There's maybe a couple improvements at the tail end, but let's get into it. Triple copies Dimension Shifter. This card is such a win conning in so many different matchups. It's so good to bring in. PK, see it, chump. Drytron, see it, chump. Only thing it's not good against is the Flunderies. That's why they main deck it, right? So obviously you're not bringing it in that matchup, but we're relatively prepared for that one. It's definitely a trickier matchup, but, you know, I'm curious to hear from you guys in the comments. What do you think we can do to make this deck even better against the Flunders? Let us know. We're definitely curious to hear from you. Anyway, we got triple copies of Lancia, which is also in our typo, right? Because we're playing Sanctum and we're playing Dagda. So it's really easy to get into the Sanctum. Into the Lancia. We've got, if we bring in all three, say we're going against Tri-Brigade, we've got 3, 6, 8 copies of it in the main, and that's not counting Dagda plays. So, you know, we're going to see Lancia, okay? We're going to be fine. Tri-Brigade's a pretty easy matchup for this deck. Even the Bird Up, it's tricky. Bird Up's definitely tricky, but we play precautions for it. Moving on, we got triple copies of the Gandarla, the Kaiju. Dragoon is a problem for this deck. It does struggle out the Dragoon. Now, we have a precaution in the extra deck to deal with it, and 2, technically, not really. It's tricky. So we side deck the Kaiju in case somebody's playing Dragoon Turbo or something that ends on a Towers monster. We can rip that Kaiju off a Pot of Prosperity or open it and deal with that problem just like that. Moving on, we got triple copies of Solemn Judgment for when we know we're going first. The opponent sees that we're playing a trap deck. We got to be ready, right? We have to set that Judgment in case they got the Lightning Storm evenly matched. Blowout cards, Harpy's Feather Duster, Twin Twisters. It's really good to have the Judgment. It's also just good in general. I think we all know how good Solemn Judgment is. And now this is where it gets a little bit iffier. We got double copies of Lightning Storm and then 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. One to play some spell and trap removal, but evenly matched is also quite applicable. Cyclone would be pretty decent. I don't know if I do Twin Twisters because we are playing control tempo deck. We don't really want to pay that discard outlet. It's the same reason why we're not playing something like Forbidden Droplets. Or we could play Dark Ruler, but we'd rather set purple cards rather than activate Dark Ruler and try and fend through a board because we're not going to be killing them, right? So it makes more sense just to set some purple and hopefully play through a board that way. But Tom, what do you think about these last 3 cards in the side deck? Are there any other potential options that people might want to try out?
Another option that we were testing was Heavy Storm Duster, which is a very effective trap card. However, you gotta wait a turn, so like that's kind of the issue. Like in certain matchups, it's really fine to, in a control matchup, to wait a turn, but then some other control matchups like PKs, let's say, that's not good because then okay, you pop my Fog Blades, but I'm still killing you. So
yeah. Exactly. And honestly, PK is evolved into even more of a combo deck than it used to be. So we really got to be wary of that strategy for sure. It's risky, but I think we have a relatively good matchup against the Phantom Knights, especially after the sideboard comes into play.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So let's wrap things up with the extra deck and bring this deck profile to a close of this episode of Make This Deck Great Again. Here we go. We've got the 1 copy of the DPE. It's in the name. We gotta play it. It's phenomenal. We got the Verite Anaconda to go into it if we don't see the Fusion Destiny. The 1 copy of Dagda because it's a key part of one of your plays and one of your engines. Triple copies of Sarah. You gotta play 3, guys. I know it's expensive, but you gotta do it. Especially if you're just testing this deck on DB. Triple Sarah, guys. Sometimes you're banishing 1 of Prosperity. Sometimes you'll even go through 3 in a game. It can happen. So you want to be as ready as you can be. The 1 copy of Link Spider in case you need to make your Verite Anaconda with your Shea Brigadine. The 1 copy of the Traptrix Cularia. I don't know how I really pronounce this card, but it does come up. It is quite relevant. And sometimes it's one of your pieces that climbs into your access code talker. Now, we need an out to Dragoon. Access code's technically an out to Dragoon, so we play it. Again, this deck does kind of struggle against it, but, we actually have to at least take a shot at it. We don't want to click AD to a Dragoon, so we do have a potential out. Another potential out kind of is Zeus. It's only if you force a negate and you're able to get in a swing with an Exceed, which is iffy. We had another out in the extra deck in the form of the Utopia, the Lightning package. We've gone back and forth on cutting it, playing it, cutting it, playing it. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Is Utopia, the Lightning package, worth playing in this particular list? Or are we taking better advantage of the slots like we're doing it right now? Curious to hear from you. Moving on, we got the copy of the Traptrix Reflegia, which can send your trap cards. It basically activates them from the deck, which is pretty cool. It can be another one of your ending pieces. Say you already open up the Fusion Destiny and a set artifact card or something like that. You don't really need to go into it. Reflegia is a great card to back it up with. Aluminaris is actually sometimes part of your main combos because you use it to trigger the Sarah, and then for example, it's your main parallel Exceed play. You use it to trigger the Sarah, and then you go into your Verite or your Dagda depending on the situation. The Time Thief Redoer is absolutely clutch. There's sometimes where you just make this and it's your body that stays on board. They just can't get rid of it. It's like a gnat. It doesn't go away. It's also technically, if you bait the Dragoon, it's another out to Dragoon because its trap card effect is non-targeting, so you can get rid of it that way. Moving on, we got the Abyss Dweller, which is clutch, super duper clutch. Sometimes if you know the matchup, game 3, you're just going to end on this, and maybe you got a DPE to go with it and some trap cards, like you're chilling. So the Dweller is essential. And finally, we got the Baguska. This was a newer addition. Again, shout out to Triff Gaming and the LCS. This card won him some games. It's a really good card. So we want to play it. There's a lot of matchups where it comes in clutch, especially the Bird up Tri-Brigade deck. They struggle to play against this card. So I think it's a pretty good card to play. Let me know what you guys think about this extra deck, though. I'm curious to hear how you guys would change it. Tom, any closing thoughts before we wrap up this video?
If you were also scared of Dragoon, you can change the extra deck and start playing a Zodiac package in the extra deck to help out the card, because then you can make a format Zeus. You know,
absolutely. Yeah, you can do like the Chaka-9 strategy,
yeah.
which does work.
Just a lot of space in the extra deck. That's where it gets
yeah, that's like 3 slots or something. So you gotta, you know, pick your poison, right? So, you know. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today for the second ever episode of Make This Deck Great Again. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, comment down below. Let us know what you think, what you change. And that's all I got today. LoganJYA signing off. Have a great day, and I'll see you chumps later. Peace.
心の隙間埋め